Good morning, everybody. Welcome back, or welcome for the first time. If you are joining us for the first time, uh, please put in the chat where you are calling in from, or viewing us from, or visiting from. And particularly if this is your first time, great to see you. Welcome to Invested Musician. This is day 3 of our intensive. We have had 2 fantastic days already. We started off on Tuesday with some cool stuff. We had
Practice planning and auditions.
yeah, and then Dennis did some amazing stuff with flute fundamentals yesterday, and we talked about organizing your inbox. If you didn't get a chance to check out that, I would check it out on the replay because that will help you a lot in your organizational life. And this morning we have the wonderful David Rejano, principal trombone of the Los Angeles Philharmonic, who's going to teach us all things brass in less than an hour. This is how good he is. He's able to just teach everything. It takes me weeks to get through half of it, but David is like in one morning, just like that. And then Rupal and I are going to talk to you about the 5 of the major common mistakes that the musicians make in their careers and how we can fix them, and how we can develop tools to make our progress even better. So, Rupal, over to you.
Yeah, just a quick introduction. So I don't know if this is anyone's first, event with Invested Musician or if you're just popping in. So, but quick intro. I'm Rupal. I'm one of the co-founders. It's a pleasure to meet you all. So glad to see you here. Andrew and I started Invested Musician in the pandemic last May. And it's just been a dream of ours to put something like this together. And we're just really glad that we've got such a warm and supportive community that you're all a part of. So we love doing these events. And my background is business. I have an MBA, an engineering degree, and a master's in environmental sustainability. And then I'm also a licensed tax professional. So yes, I love numbers. I don't play any instruments, but I did play clarinet in high school. So kind of counts a little bit. I did marching band. So anyway, I just wanted to do a quick background on myself, and I'll let Andrew. I don't know if everyone knows Andrew, probably.
Oh, yes, I'm Andrew. I'm the principal horn of the laphil, and father of 2 small superheroes, uh, which keeps us out of trouble. I also teach horn at the Colburn School here in LA, and I am a very, very blessed colleague of our guest this morning and fellow faculty member of Invested Musician. Good morning, David Rejano.
Good morning, everyone. It's good to see some of you. I cannot see some others. It's great to be here. Yeah, I am David. I am also the principal. I was going to say horn. I am the principal trombone with the laphil 2 trombone professor at the Colburn Conservatory. I am not father of any kids yet, but I sleep better than Andrew, which is good, I guess. So it's good to be here this morning with all of you. Any trombone players here, by the way? Yeah, maybe behind those dark screens. I see my friend Bob Sanders there. There you go, Bob. Hello, good morning. Good to see you. Okay,
Howdy.
so regardless of the instrument that you play, I hope you have your instrument with you, because I would like to go through some fundamentals that can probably apply directly or indirectly to other brass instruments. So grab your horns or whatever instrument you play, and let's get this thing started. We are gonna go just through a few things that I don't know where you are, but I'm in Southern California. Again, I have no kids, so I basically just woke up. So let's go through some very, very basic stuff in the beginning. Let's get this thing ready little by little. I'm gonna turn my volume down now because you can hear my voice, but if I play like this, you're not gonna be pleased. So I hope you can still hear me. Can I get some thumbs up if you can still hear me? Yep.
Yep.
I hope it's not too loud for the instrument. anyway, let's start with just some bassing here, okay? Bassing is a very, very important part of my routine for one particular reason. Everybody has a different approach to what bassing is. But here is how I think about bassing. It can be very beneficial for a lot of things, but especially it's going to be very beneficial for you if you use it with the right amount of air, meaning that the air that you need for the instrument later is the air that you need to put into your bassing. For me, it is not enough just trying to produce any sort of good sound with a mouthpiece. Let's say this. That's a good mouthpiece sound. But what happens if we translate that to the instrument? This is a very poor and bad sound in your horn. So what happens if we do the other way around? And I invite you all to try actually. Just take your instrument, play a note, and remove the mouthpiece from the instrument and check what's happening. What should happen is something like this. If you can hear well, mostly what you hear when you remove your mouthpiece is air, because that's the right amount of air that your instrument actually requires to be played. Okay? Versus this sort of regular bassing, which is based on the vibration of the lips, which could be also beneficial for some things, like let's say intonation, or I don't know, other things, or the vibration itself. But it's not being realistic in terms of how you use your air to play your instrument. So I always use the same example. Still nobody did it, but unless you want to be like international soloists with your mouthpiece and record a ton of CDs for mouthpiece and piano, or mouthpiece and accordion, which might be a very, very cool combination. Unless that's what you want to do, all that bassing is useful for is to make you a better player with your instrument. So use your bassing. This is my advice today, in a wise way. Use it with a realistic amount of air that you can actually notice when you start playing your instrument. So that's that's what we are going to do today. Let's start with breathing as much as you can in a very, very relaxed way. Try to breathe. Well, we'll get into that later. So just breathe as much as you can, and let's bass with as much air you can put into your mouthpiece. Let's do this. Even if you have smaller mouthpieces because you play a different horn than mine, you should feel like you completely run out of air at some point. You see, the longer the exercise gets, the more I am in troubles to actually finish. Because I'm using so much air into my bassing, and there is nothing to stop that air. There is no resistance down here, so I completely run out of air. But don't worry, you won't run out of air in your instrument later. Okay, I keep scratching my ears because if you do it the right way, using so much air just with your basin, make your ears super itchy. At least that's what happens to me. So that's a good sign, I guess. Okay, let's do the same with your instruments now. Okay, we are on concert F. And let me know if this is too loud or too soft or too something. Concert F. Okay, the way it feels for me, if if I have done it the right way, I mean, no, there is no right or wrong, right? But the right way for me, with so much air in my basin, when I start playing my instrument right away, like right now, these are the first notes of my day today, for instance, but they don't feel like I am super cold and I'm still trying to find my sound because I have done this little basin right before with so much air involved into it with more air than the actual mouthpiece can actually accept, that when I play my instrument, everything feels much easier. Everything feels connected. I feel ready to go, and I feel almost like I already warmed up. So I don't need a super big warm up if I do a correct warm up with my mouthpiece, if that makes sense to all of you. Okay, so let's do a couple of more exercises. We are gonna jump one partial up. So we're going to start with B flat, concert B flat on the mouthpiece again. Whatever you do with your bouncing, try to make it uncomfortable for yourself. I mean, don't try to just finish the exercise. Don't try to accomplish the task. All that matters in my basin is that I use so much air that I prepare myself for playing the instrument later, okay? So if you don't finish the exercise, I will repeat this again, that's completely fine. If you run out of air, that's completely fine. If you almost don't get a sound and it's super airy, that's totally fine. Your instrument, it will have good repercussions in your instrument later on, okay? And by the way, if any of you have any questions about any of what I'm going to be talking about today, just write it down and I will allow a few minutes in the end of this class for you to put that in the chat. Because even if I'm still not even 40, I cannot keep up with like chat and talking and playing, and this is too overwhelming for me. So if you want to put your questions in the chat later, I would be thankful for that. So let's go to the instrument. B flat, concert B flat. and try to feel how much easier is it now just to focus all that air in the instrument with all the resistance of the horn, and it is not that hard as it was before. Okay, we're gonna do two more of this combination of mouthpiece and instrument. One is gonna be one partial up, and one is gonna be two partials down. Why I wanna do this? Because the higher you go or the lower you go, the two extremes on your bassoon, if you're using so much air, you're gonna start feeling that you can't even produce a sound anymore at some point. Because again, this little tiny thing with no resistance at all in this end, it cannot accept that much air, and it's gonna feel even more awkward, and it's gonna feel even more uncomfortable. But I promise you, just do it that way, and you will see how the sound in your instrument is right away there afterwards. Okay, so let's go actually two partials down. Let's go to concert F. Sorry, let me interrupt this for a second. I keep repeating the same things, but I think it's important to repeat things to fix concept in everybody's minds. I could go and try and have a better sound in my mouthpiece, like that's easier, right? And it could feel more comfortable for me, but that's not what I'm trying to do, okay? So even if it sounds super weird and super bad, it doesn't really matter. Nobody's listening. Actually, nobody's listening to you guys. Everybody's listening to me. This is almost not fair. But anyway, so keep going. Okay, back to the instrument, concert F. And now we go down to the low concert B flat. And here is where you are almost not going to find any sound in your bassoon if you are using the amount of air that I'm requiring. see, I'm running out of air. It doesn't sound, it doesn't matter. But please don't go to. That's the easy way. But if I play like this, that's my beautiful sound right there. It's hard. It's hard and super itchy. Okay, go back to the instrument. Okay, this is about bassing. I wanted to go through it because bassing is a very important part. As I said, it's not a very long part of my routine. It just takes in between 5 to 10 minutes in the beginning, but it definitely makes me feel more, everything is more in place when I start playing my instrument, okay? Or when I combine mouthpiece with my instrument. Okay.
David, I have a question.
You have a question?
I have a question. So do you do any free buzzing? I don't know if this is a thing for trombone players, but do you do any free buzzing, or what are your thoughts on free buzzing?
Can you define?
Buzzing without the mouthpiece.
Oh, yes, that's very good. That could be yes. We do that too. I do that too, not very often, depending on what I have to do. But for instance, if I'm stuck in traffic, and hey, I live in Los Angeles, so like pretty much every day, I like to do it in the car. For instance, this is one more step, one step prior to actually buzzing. So any steps. Okay, let me reorganize the things in my head. So anything you can do with less and less distractions, and I want to call distraction, the instrument's a distraction, or a piece of paper in front of you is a distraction. Mouthpiece could be a distraction. So anything you can do prior to all these steps is good for you too. So let me just go real quick through that. And thank you, Andy, for reminding me this, because this is actually quite important too. So let me know if you can hear the difference between these two ways of free bassing. This would be one. This is the other one. Do you hear any difference in that sound? So the second one actually is using way more air than the first one. The first one is just based on the vibration of the lips. So the first one, it would be this, the one that I don't like to do in my bassing. The other one is actually using much more air, and air that is not coming from the mouth. I wanted to go that later, but let's go into it right now. And the air shouldn't be ever coming from your mouths when you play your instrument. Let me explain this. Of course, the air is going through your lips, is going through your mouth cavity into your instruments, but the air shouldn't be produced there. You always should have the feeling that the air is coming from your chest, from your body, okay, that the air is coming, if you want, from your throat. So if I do this kind of free vibration, free bassing from my lips, and I don't think about the air at all, and I invite you all to do it too, the air coming out of your body is completely cold, and we all know that that's not what we need. What we need is warm air to play our instruments. So now, can you just do real quick this? Wouldn't you say that the air is coming more from your throat than from your mouth, even if it's going through the channel out that your mouth is? Okay, now try to have your playing position, which is with your lips pretty much closed, but still try to use that same sort of air. And now try to vibrate doing the same. And if you do the same again, oh, super itchy here. So yeah, that's something that I like to do too, and it is one more step prior to actually bassing on your mouthpiece that can tell you if you are really using a lot of warm air coming from your body, from the interior of your body, from your throat if you want, and not cold coming from your mouth. Okay, this is the most important thing about how to use your air actually for me in your instrument. I don't know if you, Andrew, agreed to that, is how you actually use your whole body to produce your sound. I like to think myself as a singer that sings through a piece of brass. Not because I have a beautiful voice, especially at 9 a.m., but because I like to use my whole body to produce that sound, meaning that the air can never come from here, always using my whole body to use it as a resonance box that can resonate out there through my instrument. I don't know if I'm talking too much of if any of this makes sense to any of you, but this is how I like to think. An opera singer would never sing producing the sound like sort of like in their mouth. They use the whole body to resonate. Again, really, really bad voice that I have. But if you try to do the same with your instrument, you will find a much projecting, big, fulfilling sound than if you just think about blowing. Blowing is a too easy of a concept, I would say. Cool. So let's continue with some more stuff. We're gonna jump to, and I see some familiar faces here, which makes me very happy, and some familiar names. So some people will already relate to what I'm gonna be talking about now. But I'm gonna jump straight ahead to what probably the most important thing for me is about playing instruments in general. Let's focus on brass instruments right now, which is what I call placing the notes. Okay, we're gonna do a very simple exercise, and then I will explain what I'm gonna do with this exercise. Let's take, for instance, B flat major. We are gonna do it interval by interval, B, C, B, B, D, B, B, E, B, etc. And I will explain later what do I wanna do with this. Okay, so let's go back and forth, you guys and I. Okay, this exercise is super simple, okay? And this is actually the first thing that I do right after my bassing, like pretty much every day in my life. And I will do it more complex, less complex, different keys. But here is why I do this and why I do it in the beginning. First of all, because it's a very nice exercise just to warm up, right? But most importantly, for what I said before, this is what I call placing your notes. Okay, the concept is very simple. Notes are in different places. All of them are in different places. But most often, all we do is moving our fingers, in your guys' case, moving our slides, or moving whatever you have to move in your instrument to the right position and try to play the right note. But we don't really think about notes being in different places. We just think about note being higher or lower than the note that I just played before, but we don't know exactly about the position of that note. What that provokes is that maybe you get the note, maybe most of the time you get the notes, but sometimes you don't. And sometimes you don't get that next note as centered and as focused as the previous note, and you don't know why. And you listen to yourself in a recording or something, and you can see that some notes are super centered and they really resonate and vibrate out there, and some others are not as centered. And that's only because of that, because we don't make the mental effort of thinking where those notes are. Let's think of a piano keyboard, okay? In a piano keyboard, everything is super easy, right? The key of C is here and the key of D is here. And you know, if you don't go to the key of D, as much as you try on the key of C, the D is not gonna sound, right? You have to go to the right key and play the right note. So there is something visual involved in this, right? You can see the notes and you go to the right key and play the right note. Now, what happens with our instruments? You guys have 3 cylinders or we have only 7 positions and a bunch of notes in these positions, and we sort of like put the right position and pray to God that we're gonna get the right note. But everything's gonna be much easier for all of you if you actually think about where this note is. Let me play a quick example. I'm gonna play a B flat and then an A. They're very close. It's just half tone in between. They're so close that one would think I only have to move, in my case, the slide down and I get the note, right? But if I just do that, check what happens with the sound. The B flat is centered because this is the note I'm aiming for on first place, but then I just move the slide and the A natural doesn't resonate. It almost sounds, but not with a good quality. So even if they are very close, in my mind, I have to go from a B flat down to an A. You see it? Then you get both sounds correctly. This might sound stupid, but I promise you that 99.7% of the mistakes we do when we play, of the notes that don't speak out, of the phrases that get interrupted at some point, and we blame the air all the time, or we blame the articulation all the time. We blame other things that might be related to, but most likely will be fixed and nothing will happen. Everything will go well. If you just think about that position of the note, you are going to, and just go there and find it. Okay? So always have this concept in mind. It's never enough with just moving your fingers or just moving your slide. It's never going to be enough. Even if you get the right note, it is going to be much easier and it's going to sound much better if you are constantly thinking about where these notes are. And this becomes much more important depending on what you're playing. If you're playing something that is super awkward in terms of intervals or something like that, it becomes even more important, because just moving your fingers and moving your slide. I always use this example. We have a little orchestral excerpt for trombone by Alban Berg, 3 orchestral pieces. It is pretty awkward in terms of the intervals, and if you don't think about where the notes are, it's almost impossible to play something like this. You see all these weird intervals here? If you are not thinking about this movement all the time, you don't get that. So let's go back to the simple exercise that we did before. Let's move down to A major now, concert A major, okay? And now, while you play, I want you to think in your head, because we don't really have time for this today. I'm rushing a little bit through these concepts, but one step before doing this would be singing, okay? And we'll be singing using your hand. I keep using my hand here, if you can see it, because it is a very helpful thing. I said before that it is easier to play a right note in a piano because you can see the keys, right? So if you can see your hand, in my mind at least, this is the way it works. I can almost see the notes I'm gonna play. So if I sing, I can see the distance in between the notes. And this is sort of like a life motto for me, something that you can see. It is much easier to believe in it, right? Otherwise it's called faith, but don't live up to faith anything related to your instrument, okay? This is all about hard work. So if you can see your hand, you can almost see the notes. But again, we don't need to do that. Just think in your head, notes are in different places, okay? And go to A major now. Again, this is a super simple concept. There is nothing super weird or elaborate in this. It's as simple as thinking that notes are in different places, and if point A is here and point B is here, and we have to go from point A to point B, we have to aim to point B, being over there, and not just on the same place as point A, but just moving a different finger, if that makes sense to you. Okay? And I promise you, this is a very simple concept that at least I think changed my life personally in terms of accuracy, in terms of consistent sound, consistent quality sound, and many other things. Anyway, we're going to do one more, but now the difference is going to be, we're going to go again one step up in the interval, and then we're going to go down every time half tones chromatically. Okay? So again, when you go chromatically, notes are even closer to each other, but still they are not in the same place. Okay, so C major, and we're gonna do this. In your head, do, di, di, de, de, do. And by the way, if you are going to sing this later in your practice, make it realistic. Don't do do, re, do, di, do, da. You know, do, 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 da. The distance needs to be real. Okay, next step. The last one. Very good, Dalton. Exactly. That's how you do it. Cool. Again, if you have any questions about this, in a few minutes, we'll get to that. Okay, next thing I want to talk about is the articulation, but we're going to combine articulation with everything we've been doing so far, with the way of using the air, with the combination with your fingerings, and all these things. So just real quick. So this is my take in articulation. I am a person that likes to keep everything as simple as I can. Again, nothing too elaborate because I'm sorry, but my brains can handle very elaborative things. So articulation for me is just the quick moment in which the tongue goes very quick forward and backward, hit the teeth, and interrupts the air that is going on. Okay, and that's what we call an articulation. So just to keep things simple, I like to think that articulation is just ta, 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 ta. But the most important thing for me in articulation, well, two very important things. One is how you use your tongue, okay? Your tongue needs to be used always, I like to think, as a hammer, okay? You have a hammer and you have a nail, and you're gonna put that nail into the wall, and you need to use the hammer like this, right? So what happens if you use your hammer like this? You approach the nail and try to push through the wall. Well, if it's a very soft type of material, maybe you can get through, but probably you won't, right? So you need speed. That's the key, okay? You can play, or you can hammer that down in a very loud way, ta, 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 or you can do it soft, ta, 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 ta. But if you check that out, the movement is smaller because the dynamic is smaller, but the speed is exactly the same. So the let me see your fingers. Number 1 is going to be for loud playing, number 2 for soft playing, okay? Which one do you think is harder to articulate? Loud playing or soft playing? Okay, I get some loud playing, but mostly it is soft playing. Okay, so why is it hard to articulate or harder to articulate soft? Honestly, it shouldn't be. Honestly, I don't think it is harder. We just make things harder. Since we're playing softer, our approach to articulation sort of becomes softer too. And we suddenly, as opposed to doing ta, we do this. Sort of. We lose all the intensity, the energy, and the speed in our tonguing. And what that provokes is a harder way of articulating. And we think that is harder, and we start thinking, yeah, because of the air or because of the... No, because of nothing. Because of we are just being too slow with the way we articulate, okay? So this is the number one thing important for me when talking about articulation. The second thing, as important as the first thing, is how the air is supporting that articulation, okay? We often think that we see a phrase written with all staccatos in your music, and we often think that we don't really need air to support all that. And that's actually not true. We always need, as short as we play something, we always need air supporting that. If we don't have air and I play a chromatic scale, this is what you get. You sort of get the sound, but not with a good quality. Now, I'm going to play as short as I just did, but with air supporting below all that articulation. Again, it's hard to tell with microphones and zoom on all that, but I promise you here in my little studio, the second one, you can really hear the sound of every note you play. It still sounds short, and this is all because I have air supporting. I like to use a lot of analogies in my playing, okay, and a lot of visualization. So here's one visualization for you to understand what I'm talking about. And I keep forgetting how you call this thing in English. Damn it, sorry. But you know when you go to a lake and you have a beautiful rock and you throw it like this to the lake, so it plop 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 do this thing on the water. I can't remember how does it call. Skipping stone.
Skipping.
Stones. Great. Thank you so much.
Skipping.
Okay, so when you're doing the skipping stones thing, this is the visualization that I have in my mind of how the water, in this case the water, in our case the air, supports the articulation going that way. Ta 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 ta. So even if you're playing short, always think that it needs to have a base of air, okay? This is enough of me talking. Now let's go to playing. We're going to start on a low F, concert F, and we're going to do chromatic chromatisms, but it's not going to be like full scale. We're going to start on F, da, 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 up to B natural and down. And we're going to do first slur, so you can feel how the air is already working. Da, 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 da. And then on top of that air that is already working, you just add the articulation. But don't change the way your air is working, okay? So it's going to be this. Watch out. I'm not saying that you need, when you play the articulated part, you need to be super tenuto. It's not about... That's a different thing, okay? I'm just saying that use the air the same way. Don't touch a bit of what you're doing with the air and just add the articulation on top, okay? Let's go half a step up. F sharp. And by the way, for you trombone players out there, because I don't really know if this works or affects at all fingering instruments, but for us, it's very important that when you want to play something smooth or when you want to play something that is fast, your slide, the way you move your slide, and I bet it is the same for you guys with the fingers. The way you move your fingers, the way you move your slide, anything physical involved in your playing can affect in either a negative way or a positive way you're playing. Okay, so in the case of us trombone players, if we move the slide to like we were all taught when we were kids, too rigid, like too stopping really in every position, you cannot get any sort of phrasing. So you need to have much more flexible way of moving your slide. It needs to be smoother. Again, I don't know if that affects too much to the fingerings because you need to really press and make the air go to a different way. But for you trombone players, just to touch that real quick. Okay, let's keep going. A flat. A flat up to D. Okay, let's do the other way around now. Let's do first articulated, then we play slur. Two more. Okay. We are running out of time here, and I still want some questions from some of you. So just as a general concept, I want you to know this. We all musicians have tendencies, and some of our tendencies are to use one exercise for one thing at a time. I use one exercise for articulation. I use one exercise to check how my ear is working. I use one exercise for sound, one exercise for this, one exercise for that. But if you really think deeper about it, everything you do, any sort of exercise you do, you are doing multiple things at the same time. So just because I said that this last exercise was going to be focusing more in tonguing, that doesn't mean that you cannot check that your posture is right, that you're breathing the right way, that your first attack is the right way, that your air is working the right way, that you think about this position of the notes thing that I was talking about before. You can be working at 7, 8, 9 things at the same time easily, all the time in our practice. Now, that requires a lot of attention. That requires a lot of concentration. But you know what? Two very good things. That is going to make you be very, very professional and serious in your working when you're alone. And that makes you a better professional when you're playing for others later on. And second, and most importantly, you're going to be saving a lot of practice time that you can use to do something much more fun than playing their instrument sometimes. That can be frustrating, right? Even if it's fun too. So anyway, a lot of things that I wanted to say, but again, I prefer some questions now, and this is just like the peak of the iceberg of the many things that we work on this program. I see some people here like Sean told you, he's one of our veterans here. He can tell you many more things about this invested musician program and how wonderful it is. So, but anyway, questions. Can somebody read the chat for me? I don't know.
Yeah, I'll have a look. So there were some questions about buzzing, but while I do a quick search, maybe you and Andrew can share a little bit about what's going on at the industry, and are you guys starting to see things pick back up?
Sorry, what's the question for me?
Well, the question is, what have you seen in terms of returning back to normal in terms of the music industry? Like I know, as far as we're concerned in LA here, the studios have been actually back since last June, but very sporadically, and that is starting to change. There's certainly more recording work starting to happen around the city, and the LA Phil has just launched the Hollywood Bowl season for starting in July. So that's very exciting. So I don't know what you've seen, David, around the place, or what you've heard from other colleagues. What are things like in Europe, as far as you know?
Well, things in Europe are much different, because even through the pandemic, they continued playing in most places. At least that's the situation that's been going on in my country, in Spain. I'm from Spain. Ever since last, I would say, July, orchestras have been playing. So the complete country shut down for like 3-4 months, but then started reopening little by little with limited audiences and all that. So they never really completely stopped. Like we hear that last time we played for an audience was March 2020. So that's a long time ago. Yeah, things are starting to reopen I would say in a quicker way here now than in Europe, at least in California. Things thankfully are going pretty well, and we can wait to go back on stage and play for some real people out there.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's anyone, put your hand up in the chat, or however you want to express it. But if you're looking at taking auditions in the next year, let us know, because it's always an interesting thing to see if you can use your hand up function. Because what we've noticed is, even in orchestras in Texas, they are actually having auditions starting in June. And certainly what we're going to see is a huge wave of auditions happening in the fall, September, October, November. As orchestras come back, so will all of these auditions, because what we've been discovering, talking to people through the industry, is that a lot of people have actually retired. A lot of our colleagues, well, not a lot, but several of our colleagues in the LA Phil, David, right, have taken the opportunity to retire. And other people have left the industry. So there's a lot of movement going on. So we're excited to see what sort of progresses through the summer. Hopefully in around the world, but definitely in the US, things continue to move in a positive direction, and then we'll be hitting a lot of work, a lot of concerts, and a lot of auditions as we go into the fall and the winter. I don't know. What do you think about that, David? What have you heard?
Yes, things are starting to reopen. Even us at the LA Field, they started talking about some of the positions that we need to fill in. We are going to start having auditions starting probably in the fall, sooner rather than later. So that's something for people to have some hopes, and I hope that all of you, and this is something that Andrew and I share with our students at Colburn too. For those of you that really use this pandemic time to really get in shape and to really keep practicing, you're going to be in a much better situation than other people when things start to really reopen. And yeah, things are getting better, and auditions are around the corner.
Yeah, exactly. And for those of us who maybe have taken the foot off the gas a little bit in the last few months, anyone in that category? Yeah, a few shy hands. Yeah. So, but don't worry, there's still time, right? There's still time. We have the entire summer to ramp everything up. So, this is, you know, take this little 3-day intensive to be a good Kickstarter for things to get going for the summer. If you need some motivation to practice, or if you want to practice with some people, we have a bunch of videos on the IM YouTube channel, the Invested Musician YouTube channel. A lot of the warm-up sessions that we did on Monday mornings for horn are on that page. But yeah, try and find a way of getting yourself motivated and getting going. We have also, there's a 5-part challenge from earlier, maybe a month or so ago, Ripple, that we did. That's on the channel as well, that you can check out to, you know, give you some ideas about how to get your practice started, how to get things moving, what to practice, and you know, and how to sort of speed up that process over the summer, because the summer is going to be a really important part of, you know, everyone getting back on track. I know David and I, we talk quite often about the amount of practice that we've maybe not been doing compared to normal, and we realize that, you know, we've got some stuff coming up where we need to get back in shape. So you know, it's going to be challenging because we're still in this situation where we're not necessarily playing with people, but when that all happens, we want to be able to hit the ground running, and do everything as well as we can. So
we're transitioning now, and want to thank you, David, so much for being here this morning and
Pleasure.
speaking to everyone. And I know everyone in the chat has been saying thank you along the way as well, so we appreciate that.